Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dave's Top 3,000 Songs of the Rock Era, formerly known as Old Time Rock and Roll. I'm your host, David Tare. Whereas the new title of this channel suggests, I feature my countdown of my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. And today I'm up to song number 2533, and that one is Black Betty by Ram Jam. This was released in 1977. I believe it went to number 18 on Billboard, and it was also released on their 1977 album, their debut album, just called Ram Jam. And here's a picture of Ram Jam. And first, I'm going to talk about this song, Black Betty. It has a long history. I just learned this. It was actually, the origins of this song are unknown. It's known to be a 20th century work song. And there were a bunch of a cappella and folk versions of this song that came out, mostly in the 1930s. And I think the first commercial recording this song was by pretty famous blues musician named what's his name? Huddy Ledbetter, better known as Leadbelly. And here's a picture of him on the accordion. I think he wrote another song on my list. I can't remember which one. Might have been Midnight Special. He did a lot of old folk songs. I also learned something else interesting about this song, Black Betty. I guess it didn't, I always thought it referred to a woman. I always thought it referred to a black woman from the South, which I think was intended by Ram Jam. But apparently, the original meaning of Black Betty was, I guess they had a couple meanings. It was either a bottle of whiskey. I guess it was a slang term for a certain type of whiskey that people liked to drink in the South, and it was also a name of a bullwhip. So it had different meanings, which kind of surprised me. But so that's kind of the history. And there's been many versions of this song. I think starting in 1939, there were several other recordings of Black Betty. I think Ram Jam, as far as I know, had the only hit version. Oh, I don't know if Lead Bellies was a hit. It might have been a blues hit or a country hit or whatever. But this was before rock and roll anyway. But now I'm just going to talk about Ram Jam. And, I guess I'll talk about their version of this song, Black Betty. This is the only hit, by the way. These guys were a one hit wonder. And even though they were a southern rock band, they were from New York City. And, I never cared for this song much. I remember when it first came out, and I thought it was a really obnoxious song when I first heard it. I mean, there's not a lot of lyrics. They keep repeating, oh, Black Betty, bam, lamb, oh, Black Betty, bam, lamb. That's the chorus, which they repeat a lot. And then they have all these verses, which are just kind of mindless verses about this, I guess, this woman named Betty from Birmingham, Alabama, and I assume that the singer's supposed to have had a relationship with her of some sort. And it's just very degrading, I think. And as a matter of fact, I learned something else recently. I learned that the NAACP actually protested against this song when it came out. Ram Jam's version, anyway, on account of being racist and sexist. And, you know, even though for most of my life I didn't care for this song much, maybe my opinion of it has grown a little bit in recent years. I mean, it's not the only song that's racist and sexist. Another song like this that reminds me of is "Brown Sugar" by the Rolling Stones, which I think is an excellent song. That was coming up much higher on my list. I'm not going to say how high, and maybe you could say the Rolling Stones were able to get away with writing a song like that because they were so popular already. But I don't think that's an excuse, really. I mean, I don't know. I just Brown Sugar's a much catchier song. That's the main reason I prefer it to Black Betty. And in all fairness, I know that a lot of people really like the guitar riffs in the song Black Betty. It does have some pretty good guitar riffs, and I don't know. And I guess now I want to talk about the band. I think I've said enough about the song Black Betty. Like I said, this band Ram Jam was a one-hit wonder. They were only around for about a year or two. They were only around from 1977 to 1978. And their members, their lead singer was a guy named Bill Bartlett. He was also their lead guitarist. They also had Howard Arthur Beauvais. He was on bass. Pete Charles on drums. Mike Savone on lead vocals, and Jimmy Santoro, who originally just toured with the band, but later he played the guitar with them. So that was Ram Jam, and there's another piece of interesting trivia you guys might be interested. The lead singer Bill Bartlett, he was in music for a while actually, and he actually started out with a psychedelic band from the late '60s called the Lemon Pipers. And I think they were also one hit wonder. I only know of one hit song they had. Actually went all the way to number one. It was called Green Tambourine, and that was number one early in 1968. Pretty excellent song. That one's coming up much higher on my list. I was a little bit surprised that he went from psychedelia to southern rock. I guess it kind of reminds me of Ted Nugent, who also started out in a psychedelic band, Amboy Dukes. They had the hit song "Journey to the Center of the Mind" in 1968, and then later he went on to hard rock, and now I understand he's a right wing activist, and I don't know if he's still supporting Trump. I hope not. But anyway, I guess that's enough said. Anyway, that completes my profile on Black Betty by Ram Jam. Thank you for watching. You guys rock, and I'll see you next time. Bye.